Hey guys, we're here to show you how to install the motor wiring kit on the Frontier 12 and Frontier 10. Okay, we're just going to do a quick overview on the necessary tools you will need to install the motor wiring kit. First off, you'll need to get yourself a pair of wire strippers and or cutters. If you don't have a combo like this, you can also just get yourself a pair of wire cutters as well. Another thing you will need is a 1-inch hole saw. This will be for the plugs when you drill into the boat. If you do not have one of these, you can also use a unibit, which works really well as well. You also need a Phillips screwdriver and also a driver bit for the drill as well. I like to use a Sharpie and a tape measure. Nice with a Sharpie, just allows you, if you make any marks where you're going to drill your holes, makes it really easy to wipe it off if you need to change the location. The last tool that I like to use is basically a heat gun. This is just for doing the heat shrink. If you do not have a fancy heat gun like this, you can also just use a lighter, a barbecue lighter, works just as well. All right, first things first, we're going to go ahead and show you how to locate where to put your terminals. You have the option of putting this on the left or right side. I'm going to install it on the right side, so we'll go ahead and get started. So what I like to do is I like to grab the battery box or whatever you're going to keep your battery in and just really put it in place where you think it's going to be before you actually locate your terminal. So for on the Frontier, if we're going to be hooking up a transom mount, we're going to want to put the battery in the front. So what I like to do is just place the battery where, potentially it's going to go or where I'm going to put it. Then also going to grab your plug end as well. So the idea on the Frontier is you want to have a nice line for your wires to go into the battery box. So kind of what I like to do is just kind of set it in there, kind of see about where it's going to go. So I'm going to kind of position it kind of just right in front of the battery box. I like to put it on a shear wall. Definitely is one of the best spots to put it. That way eliminate any issues of any water collecting into the plugs. These plugs are not waterproof, so it's a really good way to make sure you don't have any issues when you're out on the water. So what I'm going to do is just kind of go ahead and place the plug about where I think it's going to line up, and I'll go ahead and grab my highlighter and tape measure just so we can kind of hit that center line mark. Go ahead and mark it with a highlighter, and that will be where we're going to locate the first one. Okay, now that you've got the bow end spotted out for your terminal, we're going to go ahead and show you how to spot the rear side. Keep in mind the way I'm going to set this up is if you could do transom or bow mount trolling motor on this, really good if people are switching in between. So kind of the same concept that we did in before. I'm going to go ahead and place the battery box about where I think it's going to be. And then we'll go ahead and come on to the side over here. And again, we're going to kind of shoot for, move this out of the way, going to kind of shoot for this void right here. So we'll go ahead and place the battery box in here, kind of about where I think it's going to go. Go ahead and place terminal kind of very close to the battery as well. Okay, got my spot there. Now that we got our plug locations figured out on the bow and stern, we're going to go ahead and actually drill these holes out. I like to use a 1-inch hole saw. It makes for a really nice snug fit for the plug. You really eliminate any issues with any water leakage. If you do not have a 1-inch drill bit or hole saw, unibit works just as well. Just take your time and do step by step and just double check your fit. Make sure you got a nice snug fit. All right, now we got our bow and stern hole locations drilled out. Next thing is going to be to actually fish our wires through the boat. Just a little tip, we always want to fish the wires from the stern end to the bow for the sheer reason that you'll have enough room in the open of the hatch to reach your arm in there, if your wires don't make it all the way there. A couple little pro tips for fishing the wires through. I always like to electrical tape or duct tape the wires together. Just makes it a lot easier going through. And then a couple other little pro tips. Sometimes with the blocks on the inside, the wires don't like to fish straight through, or they get kind of coiled up. So a couple different ways you can do to get a little bit straighter line. What I like to use, if you have it, some sort of rod or something, this is a 4-foot fiberglass rod. I like to tape the end of the wires to the end of this to allow me to help fish it through. Or if you don't have something like that, something very simple is just a measuring tape. Allows you just to drop it down through and help fish your wires to the front. On the Frontier, only has the one block in there, so it generally is a little bit easier to get it through. So we're going to go ahead and just fish the wires through as is. So we're just going to go ahead and feed our end from the back, and we'll just go ahead and feed it to the front. All right, now that we got the wires fed through the boat, next step is we're going to install the stern plug first. And what it's gonna entail to do that is you're gonna use 2 of your provided butt connectors. You're gonna have cut a couple pieces of heat shrink to shrink over the terminal connectors. And then also we've got the 2 fasteners that are gonna fasten the plug to the wall. All right, now that we got the stern end plug installed, we're gonna go ahead and install the bow end plug. So what we're gonna do here is we do have a bunch of excess of this cord, which we will show you later in the video what we're gonna use that for. But the little trick that I like to do is just kind of pull it till it's a little taut and just let it naturally lay back where it's at. And as you see, the plug does have a decent amount of wire on there. So we're just gonna go ahead and cut it right here, and that'll leave plenty of excess left throughout the boat. So just go ahead and take our wire cutters, just go ahead and snip the black and the red, and then repeat the same process of installing the front plug as you did the rear plug. All right, now that we've got the plug, stern and bow end plugs installed, the next thing we're gonna do is get the battery hooked up with the circuit breaker and with the plug. So this is where we have that excess leftover wire. This is where this is gonna come into play. This excess wire is to allow you to wire your circuit breaker and your plug end to the battery. So the other included hardware that's going to be in your kit, you're going to have your circuit breaker. You have a brass and a standard side. The brass terminal is going to be which goes directly to the battery, and this side is going to be the side that goes to your plug end. You've got 2 3/8 terminal connectors. These are going to be the terminal connectors that hook onto your battery. You've got 2 1/4-inch terminal connectors. This is what will actually connect the red wires to your circuit breaker. And then we also have a couple different mounting solutions for your circuit breaker. We do have just a standard self-tapping screw, so if you just want to screw this in, be the most easy way, or if you want a more secure way, we included a bolt, lock nut, and a washer, your choice. So moving forward, what we're going to do here, we'll kind of show you, I've already got this all installed. So what we're going to do with the excess wires, you can see I mounted my circuit breaker on the right side here, just right underneath the cover where the wires actually would pass through. Doesn't have to be there, kind of your choice, but it's nicest, cleanest way to install, what I think. So as you can see, we've got some excess red wire that we cut one length, installed one of the 3/8 terminals onto here, and then we also installed a 1/4-inch terminal on the other end, which you'll want to connect that end to the battery and then connect it to the brass terminal here. And then we also have the rest of the excess we actually mounted to the plug itself, and that end is going to connect to the opposite side of the brass side. Will go to your plug. And then your excess black line will be the excess that you'll need to hook up to your black terminal. Okay, final step. Last step we're going to do is going to be putting the plug end onto your motor. So we've already previously installed this, but what you want to do when you get your motor, your trolling motor, most likely you'll have to cut whatever terminal ends they have on there. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to install the plug with our remaining 2 butt connectors and remaining heat shrink here. So once you've got that all said and done, go ahead and plug your motor in and check and make sure it works. All right. And that's the walkthrough for installing the motor wire kit.